Welcome to Is It Me or ADHD? If you ever felt like you're the problem, like you just can't get it together no matter how hard you try, this podcast is for you. We're here to de-shame, decondition, and rebuild the way you see yourself so you can finally learn how to thrive with your ADHD brain. Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Is It Me or ADHD? Today we're going to be talking about sustainable fat loss with ADHD. This is a big topic for us. It wasn't until years after my ADHD diagnosis that I realised that the reason I'd always struggled with my weight, with binge eating, with disordered eating, that was a part of ADHD. As a child, I really struggled with my eating. I was always eating too much. Neighbours would comment about, "Oh, eating again, Rosie." My friends, if I was ever at their house when they were eating dinner, would slide me their plate because I always wanted to eat. It was just food was my main focus. It was all I wanted to do was eat. And once I started, I didn't have an off switch. And that really continued until I was about 11, when I became extremely ill. I had a bone infection. And I was barely conscious for a few weeks, and I stopped eating as I battled this infection. And I lost a lot of weight quite rapidly. And by the time I'd recovered from that illness, which was months, I was then terrified to regain the weight. Everybody was complimenting me on how good I was looking. I was feeling really confident for the first time in my life. And despite the fact that I nearly died, the big win for me at that time was the fact that I was now thin. And it seemed to be the case for everybody else too. Obviously, people were like, "Oh, I'm so glad to see you again. I'm glad you're well." But the biggest thing was, "Oh my God, look at you. You look so good." So my worth was very much pinned on my weight as well growing up, and probably still now, to be fair. It's difficult to escape that kind of mindset. So yeah, it was after my diagnosis that I learned that compulsive eating and disordered eating is really common for ADHDers, especially for ADHD women. Women are more at risk of eating disorders as it is. So you add ADHD into the mix and it's difficult for us. And food for ADHDers is not just a sense of, I've eaten, I'm hungry, I'll eat. It's comfort when we're stressed. It's something to do when we're bored. It's sensory seeking. So maybe it's crunch or smooth or strong flavour or spicy or whatever your thing might be. So it's not just a case of not being hungry anymore for us. It really is a form of self-soothing, which is where we can get into trouble with overeating. And then when you take into account our interoception, which is your ability to sense your needs internally, so that could be hunger, thirst, needing the toilet, we can struggle with that, especially if you've got a touch of the tism. That can be a real challenge. Some people don't notice that they are hungry. Some people don't notice that they're full. And I'm one of those people that likes to feel full. So you will either resonate with, I don't notice I'm hungry, or I want to eat all the time. Or a third category of, I don't notice I'm hungry till I'm ravenous and then I can't stop eating. So either way, we end up with these really disorganized eating habits that can impact our weight. And then we hear from, maybe it's coaches, people online, friends, family, you've just got to be consistent. And that doesn't work for us because we're not consistent people. We've talked in previous episodes about how our energy and focus ebbs and flows. We can be really on it and then we're completely off it. And then we're really on it again and then we're completely off it again. Consistency for us is more about persistency. I don't know if persistency is a word, but being persistent is the key for us. It's not about consistent. There are going to be times that you are really on it and then life's going to get in the way. You're going to get distracted. Maybe you're going to forget you even set the goal to lose weight in the first place. That's something that happens a lot. Maybe you're going to throw yourself into it in such a restrictive, intensive way that you actually can't keep up with it. This is something that I did for years. I felt I just need to get the weight off now. So I'm going to eat a really restrictive diet. I'm going to either undereat or I'm going to cut out a bunch of food groups, or I'm going to go on some crazy cabbage soup diet, or I'm going to fast for 3 days, or insert insane ritual here. Again, it's not sustainable. You can't sustain this. And by the time you've become hungry enough that you can't control yourself anymore is when you then fall into a binge. Or you've restricted so far that you've taken all the joy out of your diet and you fall into a binge. And then you feel like you've ruined everything, so you quit. Or you carry on with your binge and it goes on. And you regain all the weight back if you lost any in the first place. You feel like you failed, and the cycle repeats itself. I call this the diet binge cycle. And so we can spend our lives on this hamster wheel of trying and failing to lose weight, or losing it and gaining it back again, and just feeling like this is exhausting. And it is exhausting. It uses up all your resources. I made a post to Facebook today about this, and I talked about the fact that if you make it so hard, let's say that you've decided you're going to drastically reduce your calories and you're going to train in the gym 6 days a week. That in itself, that really intensive plan that you've got there, already you're going to feel resistance to it. Maybe you'll feel excited to start with because you're like, yes, I'm going to do this. It's going to work this time. I can do it. But a couple of days in, you're going to be like, holy crap, this is hard. I'm hungry. I'm cranky. I'm tired. I'm biting everybody's heads off. I can't do this. And you will not succeed at doing anything long term if you make it miserable. And if your brain knows it's going to be miserable, you won't even fully commit to it anyway, and it won't work. And so it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy of, see, I can't do this. I'm in a rush. I want to lose weight right now. So let's find another intensive, restrictive plan to follow. The problem you've got there is actually your impatience, which is another ADHD trait, I know, is what's making it take longer. Actually having the trust in the process to do it sensibly. It will take a bit longer initially, but it's easier to sustain. The hard part is wrapping your brain around the fact that it's okay for it to take longer because you're impatient, you want to do it now, and you feel like the faster I can get it off, the easier it'll be to keep it off. But that's not typically what actually happens. Most people, when they lose weight in a rapid way, will regain it again, and then some, and they'll be bigger than they were when they started. This is the issue we're seeing with some of these GLP-1 drugs, and I'm not judging anybody who's on them. I fully understand the allure to them. I've considered them myself. Just going to admit that right now. And I have all the certifications in nutrition and fitness you can think of. They are still very alluring because it feels like it's just going to make it easier. It's going to kill my hunger and I can lose the weight quickly. But what we're seeing is that when people come off these medications, the appetite comes back with a vengeance. It doesn't just return, it makes up for lost time. Because the GLP-1 drugs suppress your appetite to the extreme, it means that your calories drastically reduce. And this is why people lose weight so quickly on them. Unfortunately, they also lose muscle mass and bone mass, which is extremely dangerous for women. But because you've dropped your calories so low and your body does not want you to be in a state of famine, it doesn't. It is there to protect you. Your brain wants you to have some fat on you. And if it perceives a state of threat, it is going to try to rebalance itself. So as soon as that threat is over, aka you've stopped taking the medication, it's going to make you make up for lost time. You're going to end up eating it. Most people gain it back within a year. And so you need to be prepared to be on these drugs for life or taper off extremely slowly. And you've got to be really careful to make sure that you're resistance training and eating plenty of protein if you're taking them, because you've got to protect that muscle and bone mass. So that was a bit of a tangent, but it's really important you understand that if you're going to take these drugs, and I'm not a medical professional, so I can't advise you on whether you should or shouldn't take them, those are some things that you do need to consider. And I would suggest, personally, try and find the right way of losing weight for you before you go there. And I understand how difficult that is. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm making this episode. That's why I do what I do, to help you find the right way for you. But just take a pause and ask yourself if you're willing to either stay on them for life or to risk rebound. So, side note. Now, where was I before I went off on that tangent? Let's just get into some tips for losing weight sustainably with ADHD, because I've completely forgotten what I was saying before I started talking about GLP-1 drugs. If it comes back to me, we'll go back to it. So, how do you make it sustainable? How do you actually make it work? Okay, so firstly, if you want to suppress your appetite, let's think you want to take GLP-1 drugs. Okay, let's suppress your appetite. Protein every single meal. So no more cereal and toast for breakfast. You want eggs, bacon, some kind of meat. I eat eggs every single day, all my life. If you're going to eat something like porridge, you're going to want to add maybe some protein powder to it, or maybe you're going to mix it with some peanut butter if you can tolerate peanuts. You need to up your protein every single meal. So eggs, meat, fish, every meal. I know you've been told, reduce your meat. Don't do that, please. You will get hungry. You will get very hungry. Your body needs it. Humans are at least omnivores by nature. Some people will come at me for saying that it is the truth of human evolution. So some form of animal protein at every meal will help keep you full. It takes a long time to digest. It activates your GLP-1, which is actually something your body produces on its own anyway. Healthy fats with every meal. So this could be butter, extra virgin olive oil, avocados, nuts and seeds. It could be beef tallow, very good for you. You've been warned against animal fat, so I'm telling you that's incorrect too. Both protein and fat together are very satiating. They take a long time to digest. They stay in your stomach for longer. They activate your GLP-1. And so you stay fuller for longer. Have you ever noticed how if you've had, say, a full English breakfast, so you've got your sausage, your bacon, your eggs, toast, beans, all the things, it's not just because it's a large meal that it fills you up all day. It's because of the meat, the eggs, the protein and fat. Yes, there's all the other things, but the protein and fat primarily is what's going to keep you really full. And then some form of fiber with every meal. I suggest non-starchy vegetables and some fruits. Those are high fiber, high volume without being overly excessive on the starches. Not that there's anything wrong with eating starchy carbohydrates, but we do want to make sure they are high fiber because that's going to be satiating as well. Again, that slows down digestion. So here we're hacking your appetite a little bit. So think vegetables, protein, fat. If you're going to have starchy carbohydrates, make sure they are high fiber versions. So that could be starchy vegetables like potatoes, carrots, parsnips, sweet potatoes are really good. Keep them in small portions. Think a small handful. Okay, so we're not filling half a plate with your starchy carbs. So that's going to hack your appetite a little bit. That's going to help you stay fuller for longer. It's also going to reduce cravings because your blood sugar is going to be nice and stable too. And blood sugar is also how we help regulate our weight as well. So if your blood sugar is doing this all day, if you're not watching, I'm doing a wave pattern with my hand. If your blood sugar is up and down all day, that is going to spike your appetite. This is why when you turn to, let's say, foods like cereal for breakfast, you're hungry within half an hour, you need to eat again. So you grab a biscuit or some crisps. You're hungry again, so in half an hour's time, you're going to eat again. It's because these foods just aren't satiating at all. So if you focus on protein, fat, and fiber, keep it really simple, your appetite's going to be stable, your blood sugar's going to be stable too. And that's going to help you burn more fat. Stop going on crash diets. Stop trying to drastically reduce your calories, because here's what happens when you drastically reduce your calories is A, you're extremely hungry. Your body, again, doesn't want you to lose weight. It doesn't want you to go hungry. Your appetite is extremely hard to fight, as I'm sure you've already discovered in your lifetime. And so what happens when you drastically reduce your calories is that your body will down-regulate a lot of your energetic processes. So you might feel brain foggy. You might feel tired, cranky. You'll move around less. You won't have much energy. Your body's down-regulating everything, to save energy. And so you've tanked your calories, but you've also tanked your metabolism. And if you drop too low too fast, you've got nowhere else to go. And so you'll hit a plateau eventually, and then what? You can't reduce them anymore. The actual goal, in order to lose weight, is to eat as much as you possibly can while still losing weight. So the best way you can do this, you don't necessarily have to track. I suggest that people only track their calories if they can do it with a neutral mindset. If it triggers any kind of disordered, emotional reactions in you, don't do it. But the idea really, if you're focusing on the foods I just listed, your appetite's going to drop naturally anyway, so you won't need to try too hard. But you want to move around more. And this isn't just structured exercise like hitting the gym or going for a run. It's moving your body. It could be cleaning the house, going for a walk, just staying active physically for as much of your day as you can, you will actually burn more calories and more fat by doing that than you will by hitting the gym. So just staying active. And there's this really cool thing called energy flux, which is where you actually eat more. And because you're eating more and you're obviously focusing on the kind of foods I talked about a minute ago, your body has more energy, you naturally move more. And so even though you're eating more, it sounds like it doesn't make sense, but because you're moving more, weight loss actually does happen. Your body is in this energetic, there's an abundance of food, I'm not worried, I don't need to conserve anything state. And so you have more energy, so you can do more. And this is going to feel weird to you to do this if you're someone who has been tracking and restricting and trying to eat less for a really long time. It's going to feel counterintuitive. It's going to feel wrong. But believe me, after a couple of weeks, you are going to have more energy and you're going to be moving more. And that's really fun to discover. I've done it myself. Really fun. After years of restriction, it just feels, oh my God, I can eat again. It's incredible. But you are still focusing on whole foods most of the time. Which moves me on to the 80-20 rule. This is something I coach my clients. You may well have heard it before. It means that you stick to 80% of your diet is whole foods. So your fruits and vegetables, your meat, your eggs, your fish, anything that comes from nature. You focus on that 80% of the time. 20% of the time, you can enjoy some of the foods that you want to eat. So that could be cake, crisps, pizza, chips, ice cream, whatever it is. The idea is that you're still allowed these foods. You're just mindful of how much you have them. And it's not an all in moderation thing. This is something I feel is really important to point out. Everybody says all in moderation. It doesn't really work for people like us because we don't do moderation. We do 100% or 0%. So here's what I tell my clients. If you know you're going to eat an entire tub of ice cream when you buy ice cream, there's no point trying to tell yourself, I'll just have 2 scoops, because you won't. Have the whole tub, just don't do it often, okay? The same goes with pizza. If you're the kind of person who's going to eat an entire pizza, don't try and tell yourself you're just going to have a slice or 2, because you won't. Once it's in front of you, it's there, you're going to have it. So again, eat the whole pizza. Just don't do it very often. So this 80-20 rule helps you step back and think about what's reasonable for me to have. What will I really enjoy? Because that's the thing. You don't want something you're just going to wolf down and then be disappointed about afterwards. Make sure it's something that you genuinely really enjoy. So for me, I don't have it very often, but I really love Haagen-Dazs ice cream. I actually haven't had any for probably close to a year. And I'm not saying that's what you should do. I'm just saying it was just remembered. But I will eat a whole tub because it's delicious. Like, why are you not going to eat a whole tub? And these foods really do light up the pleasure centers in your brain, like drugs do. And so you're not just bad at willpower when you find yourself eating an entire tub of ice cream or a whole pizza. You are being hacked by food scientists who know exactly how much sugar, fat, and salt to add to foods to make you keep going. They do it on purpose. So instead of trying to fight it, you take back control by choosing how often you're going to do that. And it can't be daily. Maybe you have 1 tub of ice cream a week. That's your 80-20. Maybe you prefer something smaller every day. Maybe you are someone who can have 3 biscuits and leave it. I don't know who those people are. Freaks of nature. But maybe you prefer to have something small every day. That's fine. Do that. But make sure it's only about 20% of your diet. I'm not expecting you to measure it or count it or spreadsheet it unless that's the kind of person you are. Maybe you're that kind of person and that works for you. That's great. But just keep it mindful. That way you're not feeling deprived. You're not having this sense of, I'm not allowed. Because how many times have you gone on a diet and gone, right, I'm not allowed anything sugary or anything from the takeaway or anything that, your favorite foods, whatever it might be. All you're going to do when you do that is obsess over it. So again, we're not moderating. It's not about saying, I'm going to force myself to only have 1 scoop or 2 biscuits or whatever it might be. You're just going to choose how often you do that. And then you're going to enjoy it. You're going to make sure it's something you enjoy. And you're not going to beat yourself up afterwards. And you are not going to try and make up for it afterwards. I have to insist on this because your pattern has always been go on a diet, be really strict, cave because you can't cope with it anymore, binge, and then try and make up for it the next day or the next week or however long. So you're not doing that, because you're just going to keep yourself in that cycle if you do that. And so you're not allowed to do that anymore. You're going to eat your pizza and you're just going to move on with your life. You're going to eat your ice cream, move on with your life. Again, remember, we're trusting the process. We're taking it slowly. We're allowing it to take a longer time. So no beating yourself up, no trying to make up for it. Just enjoy it. Choose something you really enjoy, something that you'd really miss if you decided that you weren't going to do it anymore. Make it worthwhile. And on that note, pay attention to the things that don't feel worthwhile. When you are out of control and you're binging, you'll eat anything sweet, won't you? And you'll always be like, it's not as enjoyable as I thought it was going to be, but I'm still going to keep eating because it's sweet or it's fatty or it's salty or whatever it is that's drawing you to it. So be mindful of that. Don't indulge in the things that don't feel worth it to you. And I know it's hard to be mindful when we are so led by our emotions. So it's okay to just take a pause, just take a breath. What do I really want right now? Which gets me on to emotional eating. Now, this could go on forever because this is my area of expertise. This could be the longest podcast episode ever, but I know I'd lose you. So, emotional eating. One thing I want you to try this week after you've listened to this episode, next time you feel like you're going to turn to food when you're stressed out, I want you to take a deep breath. Pause. What do I actually need right now? What's my body asking for? Usually it's not food, unless you haven't eaten in hours and you're actually really hungry and your brain's, give me sugar. But usually it might be, I actually just need some alone time. I need a break. I need a day off work. I need some help with something that I'm stressing about. I need more sleep. I need a quiet, dark room. Speaking from experience as a mum, I usually need some quiet. I need some time where nobody's asking me for something or screaming at me or fighting. I need a pause because life is so hectic and so busy. And so taking a moment to check in with yourself can help you determine whether it's really food that you want or whether you actually have another need that's not being met. Emotional eating is always an unmet need. Yeah. So I am going to end this episode here so that it doesn't go on for too long. I know that I tend to lose people at around the 15-minute mark if I go on for too long. So I appreciate you being here. This is something I actually go into in depth in the ADHD Body Bible membership. So if this is something that feels like it really relates to you, something you've been struggling with, maybe your whole life, then I would love it if you could come check it out in the membership. You do get a 2-week free trial. So you are not locked into anything. You don't have to pay and then be like, oh, this isn't for me, or I'm not doing it, or whatever it might be. And you do get emails to remind you your trial's coming to an end so that if you want to cancel it, then you can. So you get 2-week free trial. You can access that at ADHDbodybible.com. It's the ADHD Body Bible membership. It's the first product on the list. So that's nice and easy to access. If you've enjoyed this episode, please give me a follow. Please give me a rating. Even comment, tell me what hit you the most about this episode. Tell your friends, spread the word, and I will catch you next week. See you later.